Great Sunrise family. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today's discussion is going to be on the game. On the game. Oh, let me put my mic on. Change this out. To make it easier for the audio here. All right, that should be better. Hopefully, that should be better for us. We're going to get into this discussion on our progression, our moving forward, the progression of the planet, the change of the planet. That definitely is not going to come without chaos. Okay? Change does not come without chaos. And we know that we are a people of spirituality. We're definitely a people of a spirituality. Hey, Brother Supremacy, welcome. Oh, yeah, Brother Bakari's. Yes, yes. So today we are looking at the situation, and not only that, I'm bringing some because I like to connect. I don't just watch um, one group of people on YouTube. I watch many, 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 many that have to do with the subject at hand, with politics, and with not only politics, but our world around us. So I watch many, many, many various people's videos. And these people I've been following, actually I followed him first because he used to be a news broadcaster. He used to be a news reporter, not broadcaster. He was never a broadcaster. I take that back. He was always been a reporter. Okay. And I followed him, and then he started having another guy on there with him, and he became this big thing. And then now his wife partners with him, but he still has the other guy, but you can just hear the other guy's voice at time to time. But he dropped some hot jewels today, you know, that I'm going to be sharing with you, family. I'm going to be sharing here. But I also want to remind you that it is not white supremacy, because if it was white supremacy, we would see great things in the world. If white was supreme, the symbolic whiteness of a group of people was supreme, then what would make them supreme? Only one thing can make you supreme in this world. Only one thing, let me remind you, only one thing can make you supreme in this world. That is if you have made this planet the greatest place on earth. Perfect peace. Perfect peace. And walking upon the principles. Walking in the principles. in the way of nature, nature's laws. If you're going against nature's law, and you're doing wicked stuff, hey, Music Land, you cannot be supreme by no means. Just like the lady on Q Butter's channel, when I was talking to her, thought she had it together, and she was still not getting good energies. We told her there was a depravity in the situation. There was something she was missing. She was missing out on her her intuition, her vetting people before she allowed them in her life. Because good things, great people are just not gonna, great people will come, yeah. But you got to vet them. You got to, greatness will come into your life, yes. But you still have to feel it and allow it to be an attraction. You cannot call yourself supreme and you haven't figured out you have a depravity. Once you can live within your truth of, I have a depravity, I need some help, but I don't need forced help. I need to work with people. I need help with my depravity before I can become great. Before I can become wholesome again. Don't let people tell you who they are when you already know. When you already know. You see, let me tell y'all something. Let me explain something. This is what I really want y'all to get. Because we live in America and we know America as people of the sun, Nubian people, Bantus, natives to the planet. We know this country already, but too many of our people allow them to tell us who they are. And it's a lie. It's a lie. Who you are is a lie, America. Because when we knew you, you were interrupting people's peace. You were taking people by color. You have divided people by color. You have divided people by sex. You have gave us poor education. You have given us a poor sense of what life was really about. You have lied to us through religion. You've used religion, and the greedy has taken advantage of all people. The greedy has lied to the Caucasians and told them they were supreme. Living in a falsehood, living in a lie. But what is supremacy? Supremacy is not killing people. Supremacy is not stealing. Supremacy is not any of those things, bad things. Supremacy is not has anything to do with negativity. Supreme is putting yourself above the lower energies. So you have to be high energies, emitting high energy out here amongst the world. You can't be high energy doing low energy vibe things. So when they tell you that America is going out to war, do they ever tell the people why? Are they really truly honest about why they make the moves they make and what the decisions they make? No, because the wicked is behind the scheme of things. The wicked is usually who runs our country. It's wicked regime of people. The same wicked regime that puts themselves out through Al Qaeda, all these groups, to invade upon people's peace, people's way of life. They use things like NATO, CIA, FBI. They use all of our things, all of these things, for their benefit, not the benefit of any people in this world, on this planet, but for their selfish benefits. So, what they have hid their hands and their faces behind democracy. What is democracy? How dare you speak of democracy when you don't even have it yourself? But it's a way to spoon feed it to the ones, the babies, the ones they think are babies, that don't want to eat it. They force you to eat it through having these terrorist groups, having these terrorist groups. This is what the wicked does. I'm telling you the truth about your government. I'm telling you the truth about what we're dealing with. They tell you who they are, and they hoping that you would overlook the point that you've experienced them. Even the point that you experienced them, they hid their hands at that time to who they really were. And they continue to hide their hands to who they really are. This is the game. And this is a dangerous game. Y'all don't have to believe me, because if you believe me, my life could be a danger. And so can a lot of other YouTubers who are unaware of the dangers at hand for us speaking out. But YouTube discriminates. So they're not going to let these words get too far out of what I have to say and break down to you about what we're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? You should know what I'm saying. That's the thing. You see? You should be able to see it all oh so clearly, because remember, we're in a time of reveal, and I just want to be reassuring of my people that they can clearly see, that everybody can clearly see the picture that is put before us, and not be fooled, not be complexed, not be confused, not be confounded, as the so-called quote unquote forefathers of this country wanted the people to be confounded. They said it out of their own mouths in their own writings. They wanted us confounded, and Jew was in their identity, hidden identity, that is, but not so hidden because they taught us in school. It's just they didn't expect people to pay attention to certain things. They knew that if they kept us distracted with outside stuff, all this crime against us in our communities, all these things, we wouldn't really read the homework. Really wouldn't do the thing, take the time. We have too many issues to sort through in our lives. But they'll put the book in front of us. They poison our waters, turn our children into autistic, turn our children into Down syndrome, turn our children into all kinds of issues. They'll pump us up with medication to keep us allowing them to put all the information in our faces, but we won't be able to see or understand it. But today, I come before my people on YouTube here to talk about the game. And I think you all should know the game. And they want to fool us again. But I don't think it's possible to fool anybody. Because it's going to be so much evidence pumping out that they don't want pumped out, that I'm about to show you, well, let you hear some of the evidence. But before I do so, I'm going to go ahead and do it. But I also want to this YouTuber that I follow to take precautions. He's a reporter, used to be a reporter on one of the news channels. And he should know, of all people, that this alternative reporting on YouTube, dealing with our government many times, dealing with things that are going on in this world, can be sometimes can be dangerous for us. But we put it out on the limb. You know, you put your life out on the limb, knowing that those things can be dangerous regardless. So to beat a beast, I remind you, to beat a beast at this war, you have to become a beast. You have to be a beast. That's just the fact of the matter. So hopefully through spirituality, you've connected with yourself, connected with the world around us, the nature, and are prepared to live truly. To live truly, because a man, like Prince said, a man isn't happy truly until a man truly dies. And
Unknown caller.
One should know what they're getting into and know the cause behind why they got into it. Because usually 100% is spiritual when you're on the right, when you're in the right. So please don't let them tell you who they are when majority of us already know who this country is, and they're trying to hide their hands in many things. I saw where Joy Reid was trying to cover up for Ukraine. We know the propaganda that's out there, and we know how Ukraine treats Black people. We've seen the work of Putin. We've seen him intervene and protect certain interests of the Black people. We've seen him do these things many, many times. I know who his friends are. We know who his friends are. Some are not still alive to this day. Some have been put themselves on the limb and been murdered cold-blooded on television. So let me share with you all some information. Let me share with you guys some information. Okay, hold on.
Good morning, Invest. I'm Natalie Morris.
Okay, hold on.
That's Clayton Morris. He's still.
All right. Hey, welcome into the show on this, what is it, Thursday. We've got a jam-packed show for you today. I'm Clayton.
I'm Natalie.
And we're going to talk about the latest of Ukraine and sanctions, how crushing the sanctions are. And we've got a big bowl of hypocrisy on the sanctions front to talk about, as all of these Silicon Valley companies are like, I'm done with Russia. We'll tell you about that hypocrisy on the show today.
And plus, why is the U.S. State Department removing evidence of labs inside Ukraine? We have some information on that and a big question mark.
And we're also going to
So
talk
that's
about the
what
next
I want to
phase
get
of the
to.
pandemic. The White
Hold
House
on.
is telling us.
I want to hear about these labs here. Hold on, family. Sometimes when I do that, it wants to. Okay, I'm gonna refresh it. Now, this is a key piece of information.
And we've got a big bowl of hypocrisy on the sanctions front to talk about, as all of these Silicon Valley companies are like, I'm done with Russia. We'll tell you about that hypocrisy on the show today.
And plus, why is the U.S. State Department removing evidence of labs inside Ukraine? We have some information on that and a big question mark.
And we're also going to talk about the next phase of the pandemic. The White House is telling us, like, hey, here's where we are now. We are in the next phase. Like, does a political body get to tell us where we are in a pandemic? As if they choose? Well,
They have been all along.
So we'll talk about all of that and more as this show kicks off on this Thursday.
Okay.
All right. Welcome into Morning Invest. We've got a daily morning newsletter that you should all subscribe to because it'll keep you informed. And as YouTube and all of these major tech companies start to censor us, start to censor real facts and real information, with our newsletter, we control it. It's our email server. So we will not be banned or blocked. So please go and subscribe. We publish a daily morning newsletter. Morninginvest.com is the place to go. Sign up. We cover about 5 or 6 big stories, and it's also our way of communicating with you. God knows, YouTube took us off the air for a week when we talked about pandemic-related stuff back in August.
When we said that the vaccine did not prevent the spread of COVID, that later turned to be true. So anyway, we're going to break down the news for you for today. Hopefully we don't say anything that the powers that be don't like.
Yeah.
But we'll see about that. Yeah.
I doubt it, because a lot of the stories we're going to cover today, you're not going to find in the mainstream media, and they'll probably infuriate quite a number of mainstream tech companies as well. So let's start with the very latest out of Ukraine this morning. And we are seeing continued escalation this morning of Russian forces moving into southern Ukraine, with Russian forces in the northern part of Ukraine appear to be stalling. We also have leaked Ukrainian memo this morning showing that Russian soldiers will have no mercy if they are captured. This coming directly from Ukrainian forces saying, if we capture you, we're going to kill you, and we're going to treat you like pigs, the pigs that you are. That's coming from Ukrainian forces. And that has not gotten a lot of play in mainstream media. That's kind of been kept quiet, but it is really kind of disturbing when you think about like Geneva Convention,
Right.
capturing soldiers. Like, that's not something you do. You capture a soldier, you then don't torture them to death.
Right. In the second largest city of Kharkiv, on Wednesday, there were bombs of certain train stations and infrastructure. Ukraine says that they actually shot those missiles out of the sky. So what was damaging was debris from the missiles, not the missiles themselves. Still, we can't get a straight answer on death toll. Russia's defense military is saying
So
that
it might be time for Joe Biden.
Sorry.
they're not saying that.
Sorry.
You be quiet, Tucker. Let me tell you what Russia's defense military is saying, that they have lost nearly 500 troops and had about 1,500 injured. Ukraine says that their military has killed over 5,000 troops, so that's an order of magnitude more. Who's telling the truth? We don't know. Ukraine also says that nearly 2,000 civilians have been killed in the conflict thus far, and over 1 million people are now refugees leaving the country north.
Well, and unfortunately, too, we don't even know what's the truth on any of these bombs or missiles or whatever, because I was watching a video the other day, and it said, video unverified up at the top. Like,
By who? Like, who's making the determination?
exactly.
Who's verifying? Is Twitter verifying it?
Because understand, there's a huge propaganda campaign on both sides. So
Yes.
we don't know what
Just
we're
look
getting.
at, yeah, just look at Twitter, right? So, if I'm linking to something on Twitter, no, I can't. This tweet links to a Russian state-affiliated media website, and we, Twitter, are basically saying, sorry, we're not letting you look at this. This is not, help keep Twitter a place for reliable info. So wait a minute, Twitter, you're telling me what's reliable? Like, you're the arbiter of truth now, Twitter? Meanwhile, people have been sharing all kinds of ridiculous videos that we showed you over the past few days, all kinds of videos that are wildly inaccurate. I saw one being shared last night that was on television by a German television station, and they're talking about the bombings that are coming now from Russia, and they were showing behind them on the screen a video from 2015 out of China. Which was showing basically a chemical bomb that was being used, and it was blowing up an apartment complex. It had nothing to do with Ukraine, had nothing to do with Russia.
Yes.
In fact, they beeped out the voices because they were Chinese voices in the background, so they beeped them out. So,
Well, that video you played yesterday about the video game, that thing had 1 million views, and Twitter still hasn't marked it as misinformation.
yeah, again, people sharing about the ghost of Kiev, like this aircraft flying around, shooting down Russian aircraft as being real. It's not. It was a video game.
Well, because let's just sort of spell out what the narrative is, right? Russia has become the aggressor inside of Ukraine. Ukraine does not want to fall into Russian government hands, and so civilians are pushing back. There have been many stories of Ukrainian civilians standing up, including 80-year-old grandpa, right, enlisting to fight. There are many stories of bravery, sure. But it is not a unilateral story, as we're going to talk about in a second. There are people fighting for causes that are not just about Ukrainian sovereignty. And there are, of course, it's a more complicated story than just good or bad, yet the media would like you to think that there is just Putin bad and Ukraine good, and that the whole world stands for this democratic sovereignty. Right.
So let's talk about the sanctions now, because this is the news of the morning. We're hearing stories about the crushing Western sanctions on Russia. And there are reverberations that could be felt for decades as a result of what's happening right now. So first, let's kind of go through where we are with the sanctions and what the U.S. and U.K. and European leaders are doing this morning. First of all, you see them run on ATMs across Russia. Russians are scrambling to get dollars out of their bank right now because they, to put as much money as they can in their pockets because they are worried about having access to banks as basically the ruble is now collapsing. So the ruble right now, ruble plummeted more than 30% against the dollar on Monday. More than 30% just yesterday.
Right. And now private companies are getting involved. Boeing and Airbus have suspended parts and maintenance support for Russian airlines. Who is that hurting, right? Like, okay, Boeing is going to decide not to support these aircraft and say, well, Russia, that's on you if you put those on the air. And harm civilians? Like, who? That is so...
Well, that goes along the lines of these new sanctions against airlines and flying over no flights out of over Russian airspace. So now any flights from Russia, you're not allowed to land in the EU. So all of these on the screen here, everything that's in blue, European Union, right? You are not allowed to fly Russian aircraft.
Or over it either.
Or a private aircraft. So that includes
no-fly zone?
Not over Ukraine, it's over the rest of Europe, the European Union.
Yeah. So you cannot fly a Russian craft from Russia into any of the European Union or a private jet. So even forget even just like the major airlines, even private jets are not allowed to fly. So that goes right at these Russian oligarchs. They ban all Russian flights. And most important part of the story, though, I think, is this, and that is what happened yesterday was Vladimir Putin limiting the withdrawal of foreign currency up to $10,000 for citizens effective today. Now, what this shows you is this is like Putin's way of basically admitting that their economy is collapsing without admitting that their economy is collapsing.
Right? You put a run on the bank when you do that, right?
Right.
That's exactly what causes panic. But if the banks can't support it and they implode, then what? Right? So this is a terrifying thing.
Well, they don't have the money to support it.
Right, exactly. So it's a wonderful life situation.
Exactly what I was going to say. Oh, flavors alone.
Exactly. I mean, and so you have at stake the central bank's ability to deliver on this main mandate to protect the ruble, right, and Russian stability. And basically, Vladimir Putin is saying, well, we cannot protect the ruble. Like by doing this, that means that the Russian economy is collapsing. And who does that affect? It absolutely affects these people, the average Russians. Average everyday Russian who is trying to live his or her life right now. Well, and it's kind of amazing to see like around the world. I don't know if you saw like in Germany, for instance. He was one, I think, the head of the symphony there. He's Russian, and the Germans like said, meanwhile he lives in Germany. He runs the symphony in Germany, and he was asked, "You got to come out and denounce your country. Come out and denounce Russia, or you will be fired." He's like, "Well, I'm Russian. You want me to denounce my country? Like I'm not for Putin or what he's doing, but and then he was fired as a result. And this is happening repeatedly, right? There's stories all over the internet about people even canceling. There's Russian cat Twitter handles that are being closed down by Twitter because they're Russian cats. I mean, this is the kind of craziness that Western media is going through right now. The sort of canceling this call to kick out of the United States Russian students who are in American universities. Kick them out. Where are you going to put them? We'll put them in a concentration camp? What do these students who are in the United States studying at a university who happen to be Russian do? What do they do?
Well, I mean, I guess the logic, I've been trying to think about this a lot as I try to wrap my head around sanctions, is that if you make it painful for people, they will then push on their leaders to change their ways. But that is assuming you don't have someone like Vladimir Putin in office who doesn't mind other people suffering as much, and will not be motivated by this. He will be motivated by the sort of optics of our central bank is collapsing. I can't have this, right? But does he really care what's happening to like Russian students or a symphony director? Who knows?
It's kind of like it up. Like, what just happened in Canada. I mean, they didn't. They were.
In my opinion, America, if America is doing that to Russian students, then they're not living up to what they say they live up to. They're not representing what they say they represent, because you wouldn't blame the people if you think one man is the wicked one. If you think this one man is wicked and you have Russian students come to your country, then what do they have to do with their leader? Aren't they safe here in America? So I don't get where you would disallow these students to finish getting their education. I don't get that. You see, once again, family, I hope you're paying attention to the hypocrisy of America and somehow point this out to others that this country is one big hypocrisy. We got wicked people that have been put in control and been given too much power in America that are doing their natural thing, which is be wicked and hide their hands.
Violent against the protesters and stuff like that when they were just protesting.
Well, in a lot of ways, like when you look at like the banning of Russian vodka and stuff like that, which it's already been purchased, so it's not, you're not really hurting Russia, but it's the freedom fries. It's freedom fries all over again. It's just we have a new
fries.
Yep.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. It's like you have this sort of like, imprisoning of individuals. You're going to ban students. You're going to put them in. You're going to kick them out of your country. You're going to stop. Buying Russian vodka or Russian food or other things like that. And what does that do? That hurts the Russian people. It doesn't hurt Vladimir Putin.
Right.
That is called control. That's their way of controlling us, the people, because us, the people, don't like to see mistreatment of anyone. So therefore, they are causing a situation where people would be mad and angry at the guy they want us to be mad and angry with, versus the ones who are behind the operation, pulling the strings and not showing their hands in the game.
Who's going to be fine in all of this?
Not to mention, if you pull up the no-fly map again with the blue, it's like we are in a gas crisis, and so if planes cannot fly through this airspace, they're just going to go around, and that will further increase the price of gas. So that hurts all of us, right?
Yeah.
So normal people cannot go. I mean, this is a reaction right now to something. Hopefully this reaction doesn't last. We're still in the first week of this conflict, and maybe there are cooler heads to prevail. The heads of state for Ukraine and Russia are set to meet near Belarus today. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom has already slapped sanctions on Belarus for allowing Russian troops to use their land for staging exercises or bases.
Yeah, and we should mention, so these talks, very important, these talks between Sergei Lavrov and the...
But also, Putin said himself that there was abuse of people going on, and that's where he was focused. And I think in this Belarus place here. So I'm going to let them finish talking about it, because they really giving out a lot of good information.
The Ukrainian government are going to take place today to see whether or not they can provide any kind of a ceasefire. We don't know, but here's what Sergei Lavrov had to say about where things stand right now. He said, make no mistake about it. Actually, we'll get to that in a second. But he says, look, there's a lot of things that are happening right now from the Ukrainian side that we want before there's any kind of discussions about ceasefire, stuff that the mainstream media has largely been ignoring, which we'll get to. So that's going to happen today. We'll see if any movement happens on these ceasefire talks. It would be great, because southern part of Ukraine is being hammered right now by Russian forces, and then the northern part has kind of stalled out. It's unclear exactly why it's stalled out in the north. They've run out of gas, at least in part. So we'll continue to watch that. but also these sanctions from U.S. companies. I want to get into this because this is really important to me. So you have all of these U.S. companies now and companies around the world that are saying they're providing their own sort of sanctions, right? You mentioned Boeing. What was Boeing doing?
Boeing and Airbus now have suspended parts and maintenance support for Russian airlines.
Okay.
I'm not sure, again, exactly what that does, except put civilians at harm. That's very worrying. Mercedes-Benz has discontinued deliveries into Russia. Apple has said now they will halt sales in Russia. Google and Spotify are removing their content from all Kremlin-backed platforms. So the corporate response has come fast.
Ford, did you mention Ford?
I did not mention Ford.
They're suspending operations in Russia. They have a 50% stake at Ford Solars, which is a joint venture that employs 4,000 people. Again, 4,000 people. These are not Russian oligarchs who are being hurt. These are Russian people who work at these Ford manufacturers right now. You have General Motors also. It's halting all exports in this country until further notice. The list is on. As you mentioned, Apple's not going to sell iPhone. Who does that hurt, by the way? Facebook. Facebook. That's rich. We'll get to Facebook's hypocrisy in a moment. But I love that these companies literally are saying we're going to shut down operations in Russia.
And let me tell you something,
Because
Pastor.
of what their leader is doing right.
All of those companies are not for Black people at all. All these companies that they have named are under the Jew regime. I have to be careful which Jew, because we got different sects. And the ones I'm talking about is the wealthy Jews, the ones 1%. The 1%, okay?
Right now. But, we're fine. We're fine making as much money as we can in China. We'll continue to do all of our normal operations in China, and we will not. If China wants us to do something, wants us to remove certain things from our search results, or wants us to make a special feature inside of our iPhones, sure, we'll do that. Apple has gone along with what China has wanted for many, many years. They see it as a huge opportunity to make money.
Why aren't they doing
this
anything?
cost benefit analysis, right?
Well, why aren't they doing anything to the U.S. when we're the ones doing? I mean, we're doing worse than Putin is all over the world, and they're not doing anything here.
Right.
I mean, the U.S. won't call out human rights violations and so forth against the United States, etc. But no, these companies, YouTube, I love YouTube, Google, Roku, Spotify, BP. Here's a big one. BP Energy said on Sunday it's going to take out 19% of its stake in Russia's biggest oil company. So BP has a conscience all of a sudden.
Oh, okay.
BP,
Right.
just want you to make sure.
They can kill baby seed life.
It's just amazing. I love this. I'm sure all of these companies are also probably changing their websites so they put a Ukrainian flag on there. We stand with Ukraine. Like I was on Giphy this morning. Giphy is like the website where you make GIFs. Like we're like funny little memes because we use it in our newsletter sometimes. And the top of the Giphy is like, we stand with Ukraine. Like, share your Ukrainian gifts here. Like,
How do you think that makes the people of Yemen and Somalia and all these places feel that they're like, wait, look at us. Like, we're over here dying every day, and where's our banners? Where's our flags on your profiles? Where's our awareness?
Most people didn't know about the Rwandan genocide until there was a movie about it, right? The United States knew. What did
Bill
we
Clinton
do?
talked about it. One of his worst regrets of his presidency was not acting soon enough. He waited way too long in Rwanda to do anything.
Yes, there's a story in the newsletter this morning about the lasting effects of genocide, and researchers had studied the DNA of women who were pregnant and their babies during the genocide, and they found that those people have their DNA altered, and they're not sure how many generations down it will be passed, but it does show traits of PTSD and mental health disorders and depression and fear and anxiety and all of those things, right, have a lasting effect. And this is not just something that's happening in Ukraine. It does happen all over the world, but this is the cause to celeb. Interestingly enough, in January, the Biden Labor Department had asked for a waiver for Credit Suisse, which is a bank that has donated heavily to the Biden administration to not be slapped with sanctions, right? This was before any sanctions were issued, but why did the Biden administration preemptively ask that Credit Suisse be prevented from being punished if sanctions were put in place? Now, 2 Democratic senators are saying, look, we know they're your buds, but can you please withdraw this protective shield around them because sanctions are sanctions, which just goes to show you that politicians are willing to put sanctions up to a point, but if it hurts them, no. Right? It can hurt everyday people, your average Russian grandmother who can't get cash out and now can't buy her medicine, right? This is a big problem now. They're saying that over 50% of medicines inside Russia are imported from somewhere else. You can't leave people without access to medicines, right? But we're willing to do that, but not to Credit Suisse, not if they're big donors.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
that's the thing.
if you give it $100, if you get a couple $1 million to Biden, you're good. Like you don't have to worry about it. You will be removed from the sanctions list.
Well, and I've always said sanctions are an act of war because people die with sanctions, and a lot of people don't realize that. They're like, oh, just put sanctions on them, economic sanctions, that's fine. But they don't realize that they're not getting insulin, they're not getting certain medicines that children need. So children die from sanctions.
Yeah, can you read that the super chat that just went by about sanctions just quickly? Because I don't want to get it at the end of the show.
Yes.
So the point of sanctions is to incite the people. Sanctions create public deprivation, and when the people are starving, they subvert the government.
So it's a great question. It's a great point, King Buddha, who says that in our super chat. And I think the really interesting article today in Bloomberg Business Week about the effects of these sanctions. And one of the criticisms is that with sanctions, you need to basically provide a why or a what. Like, here's what we want you to do with these sanctions. We're going to put all of these sanctions on your country. Here's what we want you to do. And we have not given Putin a clear what we want you to do answer in any of this. And furthermore, the argument is that this could last 10, 15, 20 years of reverberations of sanctions against the
The reason why they didn't do that with Putin is because they knew that they were doing some sneaky, underhanded things to him, which was trying to NATO him in, because just think, family, if Ukraine was NATO already, he wouldn't be able to do what he's doing now.
Russian people, and there's no clear way of sort of putting that genie back in the bottle. He could move his forces out of Ukraine, but it could take decades for this to be unraveled and the economic problems to then still be hitting the Russian people, even if he just suddenly tomorrow moves his tanks out of there.
It also does seem that the sort of the ego-based response to this is much different in Russia than it is in China. In China, when we put sanctions on sort of high-ranking officials, they do take offense, right? And they do react with some kind of they react in kind in a way that usually does harm the U.S. economy. Russia has not done that. They are just eyes on the ground at this point. Like, we're going to have to keep our economy running somehow, but we are going to continue to move forward with this planned attack, no matter how it's going.
Well, this next part. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think the whole point of sanctions, really, like you were saying, like we haven't given a clear. I mean, it's regime change. That's what the end goal is. Ultimately, I mean,
that's exactly what we want. And we've had members of Congress who literally tweeted that 2 days ago. Regime change. And okay, when you say that, do you realize what's at stake here? You've got 6,000 nuclear-tipped warheads that are under control of the Russian government right now. Regime change? Who do we put somebody? Does we stick a Western despot in the leadership role of Russia who has access to 6,000 nuclear warheads? I mean, we're the only ones that have ever used nuclear weapons. To be clear,
we just need to put somebody in there in power in Russia that's not going to overturn our elections here with Facebook ads. That's all we need.
Well, I mean, look where Vladimir Putin's main enemy is, though. He's being tried once again for new crimes. Alexei Navalny is still securely behind bars. So that's not something that seems like if that's what the United States wants, it's not going to get it anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, this next story is going to have a lot of people upset. Western media will probably be upset. I wouldn't be surprised if we get blocked for this story, which is something that really makes the establishment uncomfortable. In fact, Western tech companies like Twitter, Google, are going to great lengths to hide this information from you. Is being suppressed in search results. And thanks to The Intercept for doing some great reporting on this. But the United States government, and even recently the Canadian government, of course, have been loving to bloviate. We saw Justin Trudeau just recently talking about, tell us how much they hate white supremacists, right? And that's why we need to get these police in there to make sure that these members of the trucker convoy, these white supremacists and Nazi sympathizers, that's who was a part of this convoy, we were told, right? And any mention of Nazism should be stamped out to its core, right? Then why is the United States government funneling billions of dollars to known neo-Nazis inside of the Ukrainian government? Now, this is going to make a lot of people upset, and good, because sometimes
evidence alert.
They're doing a great job talking about how Facebook specifically just reversed its policy against white supremacist imagery of those white supremacists happen to be Ukrainian government officials. In fact, there is a group inside of Ukraine, which has power. It's called the Azov Battalion, neo-Nazi military unit, elected inside of the Ukrainian government, which has been working and meeting with NATO over the past number of years, accepting billions of dollars in arms and money, direct money and arms to these neo-Nazi groups inside.
Shut up, Mother Wisdom.
But if you're the top Democrats in Washington, you're not allowed to talk about this, and don't bring it up at all.
I'm hoping you are getting this information because it is deep. It, like I said, our government, the ones who some of our people elected Biden. I'm just going to say it like that. Some of our people don't know. Some of our people have been confounded, confused, lied to, manipulated into thinking that if they voting for democracy, for Democrats, that represents Black people, that represents democracy, freedom somehow. No, we're not free in this country. It's not representing anything. It's representing the cover-up of their lies. That's what it represents. And I want you all to see some of the evidence that are going to be put before you in plain view, and I want you to see it. And I want you to know it. They would love to hide these things. But fortunately, people like him, he's a reporter, he's not going to show us the documents, because if he did, I wouldn't be able to play this channel because it would have been taken off, because he played this earlier today. This was live earlier today. So they would wipe him off. They would have wiped him off. So he didn't show us. He just talked about it. So, but still, he's showing us where we're dealing with two-faced here. Two faces, hypocrisy in America, lies. And we can see the people that have been lied to. They are what you call speaking from an illusionary place on TV. Like I said, Joy Reid taking up for Ukraine and their behavior towards Black people who simply want to get out of the country and go home to their country, but still were given the hardest times, even though they have nothing to do with the fallout. All right, let me finish. Let it finish.
Because these people are Nazis, and we can't mention it at all. You shouldn't be able to say anything about it. And it's amazing that no one's able to talk about this.
Right. And so now the policy is that you are allowed to talk about this group. Facebook has temporarily lifted the ban on talking about this group just during this conflict, right? Because the narrative is that there are so many civilians joining this uprising. They are not formal members of the military, and that this is a big show of bravery. Okay. But is it, right, if it was a neo-Nazi group that already was at the ready to fight basically anybody, right? Maybe yes, maybe no. We talked about this during the Canadian uprising, the trucker convoy. are you still allowed to protest something if you're a white supremacist, right? And we argued that even if you are a white supremacist, I think we sort of agreed on this. Even if you are a neo-Nazi, you still should not be forced to take a vaccine if you don't want to, right? I think we agreed on that, right? So, okay, can we apply this then to this uprising? If some of these non-military members who are rising up against the Russian aggression are neo-Nazis, does it matter? Should they have the right to fight too? Or is the West sort of inconsistent with its policies, right? Because in Canada, it was like, nope, some of them are Nazis, so we're not going to listen to them at all. But there are, in fact, there have been even human rights.
They're inconsistent with their policies because they are hypocrisy. They're living in hypocrisy. They say one thing, but it turns out they're using that as a cover-up for them to do their evil, wicked, evil, underhanded things.
Rights groups have been warning about this group uprising for over 2, 3, 4, 5 years now, saying that Ukraine is not doing enough to stamp down these militant groups.
Hi, Mother Wisdom.
These kind of groups just sort of wait. Like, when can I get my gun? And this is the time.
Well, and it should also be pointed out that these members of the government are, excuse me, keep having a tickle in my throat. 5 years ago, Ukraine's maiden uprising ousted Viktor Yovanovitch, and the West loved it, right? The West absolutely loved it. Politicians, analysts, United States, Europe, everyone was excited about this ousting of President Viktor Yovanovitch and celebrated it, but denied reports of this, the it's MAIDAN. Sorry, I can't show you my laptop screen. I was going to show you a bunch of stuff, but it's not accessible today. But anyway, the Maiden's ultranationalism, smearing those who basically about the dark side of this uprising as Moscow puppets and useful idiots. Freedom was on the march in Ukraine, except it was far-right violence. It was far-right ultranationalism, neo-Nazis who have been pushing against feminist groups, LGBT groups, book bans. They put book bans in place in Ukraine, state-sponsored glorification of Nazi collaborators. And Caitlin Johnstone, who's a great thinker on all of this, tweeted this: we're risking a very fast, very radioactive World War III to defend democracy, in quotes, of a nation whose government bans opposition parties, imprisons political opponents, shuts down opposition media, and takes all of its orders from Washington due to a U.S.-backed coup in 2014. In fact, a French journalist was on French television. This is amazing. It's got subtitles. I want you to watch this very, very closely. Watch her subtitles here. This did not go the way that the French journalists thought it was going to. When they asked, like, what is life like in Ukraine? Like, it was so good, and now it must be so bad because Putin is there, right? Watch this French journalist answer that very question.
Dans ces mois d'hiver, c'est plus de moitié que les ménages doivent consacrer à ça. Donc la vie est très très compliquée. Donc je vois pas qu'est-ce qu'on défend. Le président et le gouvernement fantoche là actuellement, que je trouve fantoche, et pas du tout celui que Poutine soi-disant va mettre.
Vous parlez là de
emporter contre tout ce qu'on entend là actuellement. Les pauvres Ukrainiens, mais les pauvres Ukrainiens, ils y sont. Avec ces gouvernements successifs, avec cette misère, avec cette économie délabrée.
Oui. Mais vous parlez de Zelensky, vous parlez de qui? Vous parlez de...
Is she talking about Zelensky? She can't be talking about our hero, right?
We don't do that right now. That's not what we're trying to do.
She's literally whispering to his clothes. Wait a minute, she can't be talking about Zelensky, really? For like, okay, let's go back, watch this.
Et cette économie délabrée, c'est...
Oui, mais vous parlez de Zelensky, vous parlez de qui? Vous parlez de...
Zelensky, oui.
Donc vous, Ukrainienne, vous considérez que Zelensky, le chef d'État dûment élu d'Ukraine, est à la tête d'un gouvernement fantoche?
Oh, why? It cannot be a democratic.
La deuxième chose, c'est une personne pas du tout démocratique. Il y a quand même 4 chaînes oppositionnistes qui ont été fermées. Il y a des journalistes qui sont tués. On décrit ça pour la Russie, mais ça se passe aussi en Ukraine. Il y a quand même 4 journalistes qui sont tués depuis quelques années. Il y a tas de choses qui se passent, on ne sait pas et on ne dit pas.
Oui. Donc, ce que vous dites,
It's so dangerous to sort of mark out winners and losers in this way without any context, right? This is sort of what I have been struggling with about this conflict for the last couple of weeks, because I'm not familiar intimately with Ukrainian politics in the same way. And I feel like we should be listening to experts and historians at this point, not just saying, well, we need a winner and a loser, we need a bad guy and a good guy, we need a white hat and a black hat.
Well, I think that's what Caitlin Johnstone is saying here. I mean, that's exactly what she's saying. Be very careful. We're risking a very fast, very radioactive World War III to defend, quote, democracy of a nation whose government bans opposition parties in prisons, and we're rushing to do that.
Right. So many of us have said, oh, they're being attacked, they don't deserve it, they must be a great people, right? And that is such a big leap. Like, yes, they're being attacked. Yes, civilians don't deserve it. But does that mean...
We have been lied to about democracy. We have been lied to about Putin. We have been lied to about the others who refuse to be under their America and the rest of Europe's wicked regime. It's clear that we have been lied to. So yes, you need historians to break down historically and bring it to you today, what it is, what's the deal. Honestly, because we've been lied to.
Right? Like we just don't know.
Well, and that's again why, like, they were in an article from Glenn Greenwald labeled one of the most corrupt governments in the world. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, we don't even know all the stuff that the U.S. might be doing there to get stuff done. I mean, just look at the Biden, Hunter Biden working for that company, making like $80,000 a month to get favor with his father. Like, there's a lot of precedent. Yeah,
and I want to kind of go back and circle back on this Nazi point here, because I think it's really important and we shouldn't gloss over it. Remember, I mean, think about this right for a second, that you're not allowed to talk about the Nazis in Washington, like, unless you really mean it. And here's a group that literally wears swastikas. They identify with the Third Reich. Yeah. They want to stamp out LGBT individuals. They are anti-gay. They've banned books. They write in their write in their doctrine talk about the ascension of white supremacists. And that's actually what they want, the elevation of the white skin over any other colors. And they think about Russia for a second. Right? Let's just think about the Soviet Union. No country has had more soldiers die at the hands of the Third Reich, fighting Nazis, fighting Hitler, fighting Germany. The United States did. When it comes to the Soviet Union, was the one who bared the brunt of things that happened in World War II.
Yeah.
And so no one knows more about that and the pain and suffering of dealing with this type of white supremacists and neo-Nazis. Listen to Sergei Lavrov, who, by the way, is supposed to be meeting today with Ukrainian officials about a possible ceasefire. And what he says is, we do not want Nazis at our doorstep. And that's what we've been saying. So listen to what he has to say. I mean, pay attention to what they're saying. Listen to what they're saying, because they've been telling us all along, and then they followed through on it.
But I want to say a different thing now. By and large, it is not a situation in Ukraine and a goal to denazify and demilitarize that country and to preclude seeing the manifestations of genocide on that territory, and putting an end to any sort of violence, and allowing the Ukrainians to define their own fate and destiny. But and more generally, it's about the global order, and the West has been dodging responses and feedback on our clear-cut proposals with respect to the European security architecture. I have made mention of the key principle that was approved on the top level by the OSCE and between Russia and NATO. Yes, any country may choose to join a union or an alliance, but no country can consolidate and strengthen its security at the expense of others' security, and no alliance or entity or organization can aspire to dominate over the Euro-Atlantic area unfortunately, NATO has been acting in this vein. And it's the talk of the town that they are consolidating and improving their security at the expense of our security. But all the assertions that this will not be a threat to Russia's security are null and void. Well, how can the West decide what is needed for us to feel secure?
They're telling us right out what exactly the Nazis at their door, killing Russians in Donbass region, and United States breaks its treaties and does not, and these people are being killed by thousands. And so they're telling us plainly. Now, you may not agree with it, and of course I don't agree with them moving tanks and killing innocent people at all. But this is not as cut and dry as good guy Zelensky, bad guy Putin. Much more, many gray areas here, and it's all going to come down to affecting, I think, the Russian people and individuals more than anything else.
Absolutely. In fact, Andrew, in the book Nomad Capitalist, Andrew Henderson talks about how the banks in Ukraine are mostly run by the mob and the most corrupt banking in the world almost. And he says, do not bank there, no matter what. So like, what is it, right? That
the Jews, not the mob, but the Jews. That's who the mob is.
So is
He
this
says
a
that
government?
about Ukraine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So is this a government? And this guy has made it his business to know about investing all over the world. He studies country by country. Where is a good place to be invested? Where is a good place to be a citizen or a resident? This is his business. And he specifically says in his book that banks there are either run by the mob or have fallen flat on their face. As a general rule, do not bank in those countries.
Wow.
Well, and there's also zero verifiable evidence that there have been a lot of civilian casualties. Like, there's no data showing that there have been civilian casualties. So, and the thing is, we just have to imagine what would happen if somebody was doing this on, like, in Mexico or Canada. You know what I mean? Like, what would we do? We'd be freaking out. We would be dropping bombs indiscriminately. Like, we'd be doing the same thing Putin's doing, only we probably would be doing it a little bit more.
It would be clandestine. We would, that's the thing. Like yesterday after the show, people were like, you mean to tell me you don't think we already have troops in Ukraine? Of course we do. We already knew that we had troops in this region helping out. So, we'd be doing it clandestinely, but yes, it would absolutely. If someone decided, if there was some sort of Mexican alliance that was going to tell us how to live our lives and they were knocking on our doorstep, of course we absolutely would step in and make sure that they
Right, we love having bases all over the world for that very reason, to spread our way of life and prevent other cultural creep. Okay, we're going to move on, but first I want to tell you about our show sponsor over at Scoremaster. This is a way to optimize the amount of time that the average Scoremaster user takes to boost his or her credit score by everybody.
Okay. I'll have to check that stuff later, David. I don't know what. Anyway. All right. Some very mysterious goings on is going on inside of Ukraine right now. Something very mysterious. And the U.S. has some serious explaining to do. Late last week, the United States Embassy website got a facelift. So, why would the U.S. Embassy website in Ukraine get a facelift? Well, the U.S. Embassy decided to remove, around 2 p.m. the other day, all of their Ukrainian bioweapons lab documents from their website. So let me repeat that. The U.S. Embassy website in Ukraine labeled and explained explicitly all of the U.S.-backed biolabs in Ukraine that we have funded, and through multiple departments, but most notably the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense labeling and making sure that we understand that they funded U.S. bioweapons labs in Ukraine at multiple locations. So here are they've now taken them down off their website, but here they were. Here are the multiple locations of bioweapons labs inside of Ukraine, funded by the United States government, which were on the U.S. Embassy's website and were totally removed from the U.S. Embassy's website last week.
Now, these are not labs owned by China or sort of co-opted labs that are a collaboration of various countries. These are labs that are co-run by Dr. Anthony Fauci, you know him and love him, and his Eco Health Alliance. So why were they there in the first place? Did we know that? And why are they all of a sudden removed? Rumor has it maybe that Russia's military operation is working to either secure or destroy those labs. That wouldn't necessarily make sense, though, because that information did not just poof disappear. You can sort of surmise that if Russia knew about them as recently as last week, we didn't hide them. It's a very strange story.
Yeah, absolutely straight. I mean, what the F? I mean, should we not be more angry or curious about this? We just had a freaking pandemic in that we now know the U.S. involvement and, gain of function research in a Wuhan lab. In fact, last week we didn't do the story here because we were on vacation. The New York Times confirming, yes, the pandemic essentially started at this Wuhan lab. So, okay, now we have research happening at these biolabs in the Ukraine funded by the U.S. government. I wish I could show you my website, my laptop today, but I can't, unfortunately. But I had a whole bunch of different examples from the Ukrainian government, from the U.S. Embassy website, showing the Department of Defense funding upwards of millions of dollars for each of these labs.
And so why? What do you think, though, is actually being hidden here? Because
good question, but why? So it's a good question, but then why does the U.S. government feel suddenly, if we're entering in a war, what happens in Ukraine? Oh my God, Americans are going to suddenly discover what we've been doing there? That we've been propping up and funneling millions of dollars through the Department of Defense into Ukrainian bioweapons labs, and then they literally go on their website and remove it, hide it from their website.
But if it was public knowledge and something to brag about, because the U.S. Embassy websites are usually sort of like brag books for what the United States does abroad, right?
Right.
So why?
The Sanitary Epidemiological Department of the Medical Command of the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense received 4 mobile laboratories from the United States, and these United States mobile labs have been removed. These stationary labs and mobile labs for whatever. We don't know. To do gain of function research and epidemiological surveillance of armed forces in Ukraine, to study it. I mean, who knows what the hell they're doing? Why the F, though, do they remove it from their website and hide it as if it doesn't exist? And by the way, no journalists are going to go to a State Department or Department of Defense meeting at any press conference and even ask about it. No one's going to be talking about this story. No one's even bringing the story up. No one is going to ask Jen Psaki this question.
I'm so unclear on what we even think is a possible explanation, though.
I mean, a possible explanation for what, though?
For why was the United States there? What were those labs doing? What was it that
15 different biolabs in Ukraine. These are not Russian or Chinese biolabs. These are Ukrainian biolabs backed by the United States government that consolidate and secure pathogens and toxins of security concern. That's what it says on the U.S. Embassy's website. These consolidate and secure pathogens and toxins of concern.
In a country where neo-Nazi.
Plotline on the Americans about this.
Yeah, exactly.
When they go to Arizona.
No, think about this for a second. I know we sit here and we say, like, why would Putin want to go into Ukraine when the United States has 15 bioweapons labs in the Ukraine that's right on the U.S. Embassy's website, funded by the Department of Defense, and they remove it from their website when suddenly now people start questioning what's going on? Or I don't know. I mean, would we allow, again, I come back to, would we allow that? Would we allow, if the Canadian, let's just say President Xi of China sets up bioweapons labs in Canada,
Yes.
15 of them. Right, the Chinese government is funding weapons research, bioweapons research, or bioweapons manipulation inside of Canada.
Yeah.
What would we do?
I don't know.
We'd put some sanctions on them.
That's what Snarky for Life says. Oh, it's just the government trying to kill us again. That's exactly what it feels like, right?
I mean, how do you have this? The DoD facilitated the permit process to allow Ukrainian scientists to work with these pathogens of pandemic potential up until February 25th of last week. The existence and details of these bioweapons labs were public knowledge. The U.S. Embassy had previously disclosed the location and details of these labs. Right here they are. Here they are. On their website, in PDFs. If you try to go there now, you cannot get them. The PDFs have been removed, but fortunately, again, I wish I could show them to you, but they were, I archived a whole bunch of them. They're all PDFs. I mean, they detail greatly how much the Department of Defense spent on the lab. It even talks about the type of furniture that they furnished in these labs inside of Ukraine.
Okay, well, that happened. And what now? They're like on hiatus. They're working from home, pandemic style.
I think they're still there. The point is, I think these labs are still there. Just the mention of them is gone. Like now, hey, no knowledge. It's good. Just go on your merry business. Nothing to see here. Nothing for you at home to be concerned.
So Putin would be in his right to destroy those things.
I would love to know.
Well, that falls outside of the purview of any regulation.
And that's when you get into bioweapons and chemical weapons, it's so interesting in my opinion because we have nuclear weapons. So if somebody used a bioweapon against us, we could retaliate tenfold. Why do we still make chemical and biological weapons? They're illegal, or they were supposed to be. What was it, the early 80s when they were trying to ban them? And then the U.S. said, well, people still have chemical weapons, so we should continue to make them. But we shouldn't be.
The only people that have chemical weapons is America.
Well, no, it's amazing, of course. If you
And
saw
probably
some stories
European
like over the past few days, it's like, oh my God, Putin is he using chemical weapons? Is Putin about to use chemical weapons on the Ukrainian people? There's all these concerns like now he's doing it. Okay, well, what are these 15 labs inside of Ukraine that the Department of Defense from the United States has set up? Anyone want to explain this to me? NEFAC in our chat says that they've now been removed from the Wayback Machine. No, they're still on the Wayback Machine. I archived a bunch of them.
I think he's asking, are they on the Wayback Machine?
I have them. I was trying to show them here on my laptop, but my buttons are all switched around today, so I can't show them to you. But I have them here. There's 15 of them. And they break down specifically and show you these different declarations of start of construction from the United States government, construction-ready operation of the declaration from the Department of Defense, these permits from the United States government into how much it costs per laboratory, the design and construction, lab equipment and furniture. It's all right here.
If you see your laptop in Remix, you can just click cut on that individual source and it'll cut to it.
Oh, I don't see it anymore.
Oh, it should have been there.
My windows are all shrunk, so I don't know where they are. But anyway, never mind. But anyway, the point is that these exist. These bioweapons labs are in Ukraine, and the United States government has funded them, and now they've removed them from the website. And you probably won't hear anything about this on the mainstream media. You're not going to hear anybody questioning Jen Psaki about it. You're not going to hear anyone questioning President Biden about it.
Of course
How
not.
long have they been there?
They're fighting for democracy
All right, well,
in a
pandemic
neo-Nazi
still
country.
exists in some form or fashion, but now lawmakers are deciding how to move on from it. Maybe you're breathing a sigh of relief. In Oregon, the governor has said we will no longer enforce the vaccine mandate for the state's 40,000 employees because, and the governor actually said, it's no longer necessary. That's interesting. The White House just announced the COVID preparedness plan. So it will require additional funding from Congress. No word on whether or not Congress will approve it. But the focus will be on spending for treatments of COVID-19, keeping schools and businesses open, and preparing for new variants. Interestingly enough, there is not really an emphasis any longer on vaccines. They mention vaccines. They still say they want you to do it, but they are saying that anybody who gets a COVID-19 test at a pharmacy and gets a positive result will be offered a free antiviral pill on the spot if they want it. So now it seems the focus is no longer on, and many of these antiviral pills have shown great efficacy in reducing the symptoms and the effects of COVID diagnosis. And so now it feels like more of it like you can treat it like a Teraflu, right?
I don't think they're going to give them the 2-cent pill, though. They're going to want to give them the
No,
expensive pill
obviously
because
the
you're going to have to take
pharmaceuticals.
multiple. You get
Yes.
worse than 3.
Maybe.
All right, family, that's it on that information. And that is a lot of deep information that we need to take into context. We need to look at these things that are put before us very evidently into what these people are really doing. And it's clear now who the wicked is. It's clear to us who the wicked is. So what we need to do as a people is not allow them to get what they want to do, not to allow them to achieve any more of what they've been doing. The buck should stop here, family, is what I'm saying. We should say, game over. You can't run game with people anymore at all. Because we know the deal. We know the deal, and we're over it. So Putin was in his rights to prevent the people from abuse that they were receiving. And he saw a Nazi regime building up in Ukraine. And he found out probably that America was operating in the same manner. The bankers were operating in the same way. And he knew NATO was closing in on him. That's all for today, family. I just want to make you aware. You remember that war starts spiritually and manifests its way, and that change cannot come without chaos. Peace, family. Till next time. Always remember, true love, real peace, and the higher self within you, the soul. Thank you all for being here. Brother Supremacy, Music Land, HQ82, and Mother Wisdom. Peace be with you.